Welcome, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'm really excited to present to you Justin White. We are going to talk about some of the projects that he works on to help real estate investors with finding opportunities, finding ways to invest their cash, and also how to mitigate capital gains. Justin, can you introduce yourself in 60 seconds or less and tell us what you do at Centennial Advisors?
I'll do my best, Mark. Thank you for having me on today. I'm really excited about it. And I'll be real quick. So I've spent 20 years in the commercial brokerage space, long time with a big national firm. Left there 5 years ago, started Centennial Advisors. And our main focus is on helping private clients do the best they can in investment real estate. We do a lot of 1031 exchanges. We help a lot of people diversify portfolios. And over the last 5 years or so, we've spent a lot of time in the opportunity zone space, helping people realize the tax benefits of opportunity zone investing and helping also communities realize the benefits of getting opportunity zone investors into their area.
Cool. So what's interesting here is, I've talked to a lot of people about 1031s. We had like an hour and a half long jam session on it with David Foster, a really great episode. And we did another conversation on qualified opportunity zones. But I haven't yet had a chance to talk to someone who walks a client through both strategies. So what I'm wondering is, how do you help a client decide between a 1031 exchange and a qualified opportunity zone fund?
So great question. And I would say most of the time, we actually don't have to help them figure it out, because in our opportunity zone space, a lot of people are taking capital gains from something aside from real estate. Might be the sale of a business. It might be a sale of some Air Jordans, whatever it may be. They have a big capital event that came from something outside of real estate. And then they're going to use the qualified opportunity zone to get some of the tax benefits of putting that capital gain into an opportunity zone area. Now, for our 1031 clients, most of those people, or all those people, already own real estate. And what we do in that scenario is we take a look at what they have. How well is that property really doing on a return on equity standpoint and its ability to accumulate wealth over the next 10 years? And then we ask them and figure out, where do they really want to be? Do they love this property? Or maybe do they have some lifestyle changes and they want to get into something else? We combine their non-financial interests with a deep financial analysis of their property. And if they can do better in a 1031 exchange, we help them do that. Now, for maybe 10% of our clients, they are taking money that was in a piece of real estate, and instead of doing a 1031 exchange, using the opportunity zone benefits and redeploying proceeds from the sale of a piece of real estate into an opportunity zone. And in those rare cases, it really it depends on how much basis they have and what their, let's call it, long-term strategy for whether they're going to sell it at some point in their lifetime, or if they plan on holding it until it passes to future generations.
Yeah, I think that I've been thinking about this, and I think that there's some really cool stuff we can do with QOZs when we combine it with some other opportunities. So if we have a client with real estate professional tax status and they have a non-real estate capital gain, right? You're gonna, not only do you defer the taxes until 26, but now it's going to invest in a QOZ, and maybe if you could do the right grouping election, you might be able to group in. They're going to run in a cost. Eventually, they're going to do a cost segregation study when that property is up and running, and the cost segregation study will create a tax loss. So you go from a position where you go from paying taxes to actually investing in something that's going to give you a tax loss, in addition to all the other benefits that you're going to see long-term from the QOZ, which is pretty cool.
We actually have a client who is in that exact scenario as well. Definitely real estate professional, makes most of their money in real estate, had the capital gain, and now through getting additional basis by financing the opportunity zone purchase, they're actually going to use a bonus depreciation asset that's going to get 80% year one, and they're going to do the same thing, create a tax loss that they'll be able to utilize really for a couple years from effectively utilizing the opportunity zones and all the benefits that they get.
Yeah, another cool thing a lot of people don't think about here is that after 10 years on your exit, you pay $0 capital gains on any capital gains generated from your investment. Now, if you can't use that deduction from the cost seg, so let's say you don't have rep status, you have these suspended losses and you continue to invest elsewhere and you still have an accumulation of losses from your investment in this QOZ. When you eventually exit out, not only do you pay no capital gains, but you may actually be able to free up these losses now to offset other sources of income. It'd be
It,
really nice.
it's a really interesting thing. I've found that the non-real estate people who look at all of the tax benefits of opportunity zones are blown away with all the benefits that they get. The deferral till 26, the no capital gains if they hold it 10 years, if they finance it and take a bunch of depreciation, no depreciation recapture. All that stuff makes perfect sense to them and they love it. It's interesting that oftentimes our real estate clients, they don't appreciate the tax benefits of the opportunity zone as much because they're so concerned about it as just a real estate deal. And it's actually, I think sometimes the real estate client is slower to take advantage because they're purely looking at it as a real estate deal and they don't see all of the tax benefits that come with it.
Yeah, so we've had this with clients because our demographic is mostly younger folks in their 30s. We have other people in their 50s and 60s, but they want to have direct control of their assets. So they're a little bit turned off by QOZs sometimes in situations where they have real estate capital gains. Obviously, with stock capital gains, the QOZ might sound more appealing. One of the ideas I was thinking about is, let's say you're doing a large 1031 here, right? And you have some taxable boot because maybe you want to have some, maybe you just don't have enough basis in the replacement property, or maybe you want to use your cash for something else, whatever it is. Now I'm thinking to myself, perhaps you could use a QOZ to offset the taxable boot from a qualified opportunity zone fund, which would be a nice combination of strategies. Have you ever seen anybody think about that? Or maybe this is just my mind wandering in all different directions.
No, I think that the combining of strategies is when people are really taking it to the next level. Because you can combine strategies. And I'll give you another combined strategy that we had. We had a client who had a significant capital gain event. They bought the first opportunity zone property cash because they bought it certificate of occupancy. They refied 60% of it, then redeployed that 60% in another opportunity zone property, ended up acquiring basically 4 opportunity zone properties in a step-by-step purchase scenario like I just described. And then with some other available fresh cash, went out and bought a C-store
Oh,
last
those are
year
good.
to get the 100% depreciation in 2022 to create a huge loss with all of the depreciation to offset against their original capital gain.
Very beautiful. Now, one of the things I'm also thinking about here is because it's really nice that you have for this as a real estate capital gain strategy. It's wonderful that you not only are you deferring the gain, you're getting access to a lot of depreciation from a cost seg that'll be performed on the qualified opportunity zone fund. And you can take your basis and invest it elsewhere to get more depreciation to offset future cap gains. But with stock and other forms of non-real estate capital gains, it might be a little bit trickier here to generate losses to offset that capital gain because it's non-real estate. And 2026 is not that far away. It's great that we're deferring it. What are your thoughts on tax planning for when your capital gains are going to be recognized in 2026? And also, another thing I'm thinking about when we're thinking about in the future here, past 2026, uh, what do you think is going to happen in our legislative environment? Do you think they're just going to let QOZs expire, or what do you think we're going to see with QOZs in the next couple of years?
So I'm probably optimistic because I really like qualified opportunity zones. and I've seen what it's done for people. But the thing that I always keep in mind is that I think the opportunity zone idea was the only bipartisan thing that passed during the Trump administration. So while everybody was so partisan, both sides of the aisle were able to see the benefits that opportunity zones would bring. And they certainly have. In some of the areas that we have had our clients invest, the number of new buildings and new businesses coming to that census tract has really been off the charts and been phenomenal. So the idea that providing some tax benefit to get people to invest in certain census tracts has been fantastic. I believe that there is discussion now about extending 2026 into 2028. And the main reason being that they're talking about a 2-year extension is that once opportunity zones came out as a part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in late 2017, is it took the IRS about 2 years to provide guidance on some of the things that people were doing in OZs. And once that guidance came out in 2020, the number of dollars that got into opportunity zones significantly increased. And so the talk is extending it 2 years to have a kind of that same window that they had originally intended when it passed in late 2017. So I think we might see it get extended. I actually think that we might continue to see it get extended because of the positive impact that it's having.
Yeah, so what I would think, and this is I'm not on Capitol Hill, but what I would think and hope is to see that qualified opportunity zones exist in perpetuity. And what would be really nice is if, right now we gotta wait until 2026 for these QOZs to have for the gain recognized in 26. And we used to have a partial step up in basis. And perhaps when they create legislation that's meant to last long term, hopefully that we can see a little bit more of a delay in when we recognize the gain, maybe bring back the partial step up in basis. That would be really fun and a great opportunity for our clients.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the things that they're doing in OZ, let's call it legislation or discussion of legislation right now, is to continue to get people to invest in it. There certainly is some thought that they will redraw the areas or reselect the census tracts that fall into opportunity zones. And if the legislation is really designed to, make a positive impact on the areas that need it most, they probably do need to do that. The current OZ map has a lot of places that are pretty darn good. Our clients have invested in places like the Reno Sparks Industrial Complex, which is where the Gigafactory is, and all kinds of other big, Fortune 500 companies have facilities. Well, that's in an opportunity zone. Other places like areas right around universities. We have a client who purchased an OZ property a mile from Purdue, which is probably less than a quarter of a mile from Purdue University's technology campus. So there's a lot of places that have fallen into opportunity zones right now that are amazing places to invest, just good quality locations where you also get the opportunity zone benefit. At some point, they're probably going to make some changes to get the correct areas in there, but there are some places right now that are kind of in the whoops, how'd that one get on the list sort of opportunities.
Yeah, I've been to some areas in opportunity zones and seen some buildings in opportunity zones that were in really nice neighborhoods and really cool areas. And I've heard people who were who were just so quick to jump to a conclusion of, oh, you don't want to invest in those types of areas. You don't want to take the risk of there. And I think that we should really question our assumptions and talk to the organizers and really look at what's actually going on and what you're actually going to be investing in and what are the numbers actually looking like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the initial thing with opportunity zones that why more people didn't invest in them was, one, they thought that it was all, let's call it tough areas. Number one. Number two, as we mentioned earlier, they were going to most likely, because of the rules, have to invest with a bunch of other people or invest with somebody who had expertise building a property. And then they thought that it was going to be really intense management of the assets. And for the first couple of years, I think that was the problem in opportunity zones. But as we dug in on it and looked at it and tried to figure out, okay, how can people take advantage of this opportunity that's been made available to them, we realized there are a lot of areas that are good to really good that fell into the opportunity zone designation. Number two, we figured out a way within the IRS guidelines that you could invest just yourself and not have to invest with a ton of people. We also figured out that within the IRS guidelines that an investor could acquire a property the day before certificate of occupancy. So the best example I can give you is a brand new 7-Eleven gas station and convenience store. Developer goes out, finds a site, gets 7-Eleven committed to the lease. Developer builds everything up until the day before certificate of occupancy. Opportunity zone investor can come in, buy that property, get all of the benefit for the construction because of the way the IRS defines placed in service and the way the IRS has gone to court and argued what placed in service means. You acquire it the day before certificate of occupancy. Our opportunity zone client gets the certificate of occupancy. And now they have a great corporate tenant. We adjust the leases because a triple net lease is not allowed in the opportunity zone space. So we adjust the lease to be double net or single net with the tenant. And now our clients are able to acquire in their own opportunity zone fund a long-term corporate-backed tenant with some management responsibility, but not a ton of management responsibility. And that was really, I think, the big problem is that people couldn't find opportunities like that would be easy, because I would imagine that a lot of your clients, or at least a good portion of your clients, their capital gain event doesn't come from a real estate transaction. It comes from, the sale of a business or something that they've created, elsewhere outside of real estate. And they don't want to get into a super management intensive real estate situation because they don't know it. We've kind of figured out a way where they can invest their capital in these areas that are improving, get the opportunity zone benefits without some of the management intensive headaches that come with some of the real estate investing.
I think that there's an additional opportunity here. So if we're getting a convenience store and a gas station, then this could also potentially be a C store where the whole building would qualify for, well, 80% of that building we could potentially write off for bonus depreciation on top of that, right?
Exactly. And so last year was even better because you could do 100%.
Yeah.
And so
now that's amazing. If you got to do that for a client, say, hey, instead of paying capital gains, we're gonna leverage this into another asset that's gonna let you write off what, like 2.5 times your contribution, or what, three, what, I don't know, even I can't even imagine what the multiplier is, but it's got to be at least 2.5 times your contribution gets turned into a tax deduction in year one, right?
They're fantastic. And so of our opportunity zone transactions that we've done, at least 50% have been in some form of a property with some form of marks depreciation to it, whether it was a car wash, collision center, gas station, convenience store. So we've done a significant portion of that. You already mentioned cost segregation. Unfortunately, in our traditional real estate business, most of our clients aren't using cost segregation yet. They're still scared. But yes, on our other stuff, on the industrial buildings that we've done, on the fast food that we've done, our clients are immediately doing a cost segregation study to take advantage of any additional depreciation that they can get and take on those opportunity zone acquisitions.
Wonderful. So what you introduced me to, because in my mind, you typically would invest unless you had something in the QOZ that you just came across, which is very rare for people capital gains. But most people will invest into a QOZ fund, and the fund will pull people together to invest in a brand new project in real estate. But what you introduced me to is a concept of a captive qualified opportunity zone fund, right? So where you can, I believe you said we could be the sole investor in a project in this circumstances, and we don't have to split out our equity with all these other LPs, right?
Correct. So all of the opportunity zone acquisitions that we've done have been what we call a captive opportunity zone fund, where you're not investing with a number of other people not known to you. It is, your capital gain. If it's a partnership, it's just the partner's capital gain going into their opportunity zone fund. So
Very
that's
cool.
usually number one, where when we lay out the idea, people go, oh, yeah, you're right. We can do that. The second one is the acquisition of the property right before certificate of occupancy, and being able to get the credit for all of the development because of the way the IRS looks at placed in service date. That's the one that surprises most people, is that they don't have to put that first shovel into the ground and do a bunch of construction or development that they have no experience in. They
So
can
it's a
wait
lot,
and acquire the property right before its grand opening, basically.
right? So you see less of a lag between the time that they make their contribution and the time that they get to get the deductions from the depreciation and the cost seg, and also the cash flow. So there are
Yep,
some projects that are already almost ready to be up and running. They're ready to put the cash in and press go and see the economic benefits a lot sooner.
absolutely. And that's one of the things that our clients really like about it, is that they can, in some cases, the lease goes into effect on certificate of occupancy. That's 2 or 3 days after we've closed escrow, and they get their income check right away. They get to realize the benefits of the depreciation and all those things virtually immediately, versus having to wait for a project to get done. And depending on the areas, it might be let's call it 6 months to a year. And in California, it might be 2 years or 2.5 before cash flow can get generated on a project once it gets started.
Very cool. Now, another thing I'm wondering here now is, well, tell me about how do you, when you're talking to your clients and investors, how do you quantify the the profitability and the economic benefits of these QOZs?
So the neat part for us is that we first look at them just as a real estate deal, and it starts with location. So how great is this location? If we like the location, well, then we're going to evaluate the tenant in the lease and the quality of the tenant, the quality of the lease, how protective the lease is for our clients. Because most of the time, our investors in these things are looking to place money that they've made and preserve it. They're not necessarily trying to hit the next grand slam. They've made a good chunk of money. They want it to produce, and they want it to be safe and secure. So we evaluate it first as a real estate deal. If it looks good as a real estate deal, then we start to look at, okay, what type of property is it? Is it going to qualify for just cost segregation, or is there going to be some bonus depreciation? Okay, if we finance it, how much financing can we get? Because that's really, in our minds, the key component for getting the to utilize an opportunity zone forgiveness of depreciation recapture, is creating additional basis by being able to take your 10 million in capital gain and go out and acquire 20 or 25 million of high quality real estate. Now you've created 15 million in additional basis that you can depreciate over those 10 years, that's going to get forgiven as well. So if we take our 10 million, we buy 25, 10 years from now, it's worth 35 or 40 or whatever it is. We've got 10 to 15 million there that you're not going to pay no tax on. And you used let's call it 10 million in depreciation where you're paying no depreciation recapture.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a
And
home
not
run in
only,
addition to just whatever the cash flow was for the, relative to the risk of the tenant.
not only that, but you also get your principal back. And unlike with the 1031, where your principal has to roll over, you can do whatever you want with your principal. Perhaps you invest that in other assets that'll generate tax savings or cash flow as well.
Yeah,
What
and our clients look at it, the deferral is also another nice point. And as we're getting closer, it's obviously not as valuable as it was had somebody done it in 2020. But still, you're deferring your tax on the capital gain that you made, and you're basically using what you owe the government to make you money. So that one is like I said, as we're getting closer, it's not as valuable, but it's still a nice component of the opportunity zone program and benefit to the investor.
So, what do you think people are going to start saying in 2025 if we don't see any extensions here? And let's say we at that point we're only going to get a 1 year deferral, and there's going to be some potential tax liabilities at that point. And what do you think clients are going to be doing to mitigate that initial? Now you still see the benefits that if you hold it for 10 years, there's no more capital gains on the exit. But what do you think clients are going to start strategizing to navigate the potential capital gains that'll be taking place in 2026? Besides working with a guy like me.
Well, exactly. And I think that's why right now, like we have some clients that are like, okay, well, I've got, basically 24 months based on when my tax year is and when I had the gain to invest it. And we're like, yeah, you can sit and wait, but as we are going to get closer, the deferral is not going to be as valuable. The bonus depreciation is not going to be as valuable in the year of your capital gain event. So I think it's not going to be quite as valuable, just the opportunity zone. Now, it still will be. You mentioned it. You're going to get no capital gain if you hold it 10 years, and you get no depreciation recapture. And those two things are huge in what makes an opportunity zone investment a really good real estate investment. But I think that right now, doing it now, the one thing that people are going to be able to do is that they are buying real estate relative at a discount, right? 18 months ago, we had interest rates at 3, even high 2s for a really high quality project, into the low 3s, and now we're in the 6 to 7 range. That changes cap rates, and that's brought cap rates up and prices down. And so if somebody does something in the more near term, not only are they going to get more bonus depreciation, they're going to get the longer deferral. They're going to get more time to work with somebody like yourself to strategize for that event in 26. But they're also going to get a deal. I mean, we've done a number of 7-Elevens where it's the exact same tenant. It's relatively a similar location and demographics. Opportunity zone deals that we were doing at 4.25 a little over a year ago, that now we're getting that same product at the 5.5 range. And so there has been, a discount on these things that if somebody does something now, they're also getting that benefit.
What do
More
you
capital
see as
down.
what do you see as a typical capital contribution, a minimum requirement of commitment, and what most people are doing to get involved in the type of vehicles that you're creating with your clients?
So we've worked with people with as little as 500,000. Although what I would say is it's probably for a high quality tenant with a good long-term lease. And that's where we find, I think, let's call it the safest, or, the lowest risk sort of opportunities. It probably takes somebody $1.5 million to $2 million to get high quality stuff. Now, that's on the low end. We have clients that have 20 to 30 million in gain that we are sometimes putting into multiple properties. And it actually, with most of our clients that have, let's call it more than 2 or 3 million in gain, we are doing more than one transaction. And because it allows us to build up the debt that they will ultimately use for the additional basis and depreciation to really maximize the benefit of opportunity zone. But on a one property basis, $1.5 to $2 million gets somebody a good location, high quality tenant, taking it all the way up to, like I said, in the 30 to $40 million. But those are usually spread across multiple properties.
Very cool. So, because I'm out of the office, I'm low on battery. So this is what I have some questions to ask you as we wrap this up. One, I want to know, are you and how are you using AI in your business?
It's an interesting question. We're using it a little bit. I'd say our group is definitely intrigued by it and trying to figure out how we can help clients and how it can be of value to us. I would say, though, one of the things that I think makes us different is that we are really customer service and kind of customer focused and driven. And AI, like, you can never take away the human touch and somebody really understanding what the client wants to accomplish. AI is never going to do exactly what we can do when we put our eyes on a property in a place like Rawlins, Wyoming for somebody, and those sort of things. So I think there is a space where AI can be valuable, and it's certainly in some of the analysis and some of the things we do behind the scenes. But I think that what makes always that service provider that we always really like, whether it's a commercial real estate broker, a doctor, or your tax advisor, is somebody who is going to help you and make you feel like you're the most important thing. And I'm not sure AI can do that yet.
What are some things that you do outside of helping clients and at your current position? What are some things you do for fun?
So I've got 7 kids. My oldest is heading off to college this year, so we're really excited about that. But most of what I do when I'm not at work is right now shuttling people to a variety of different sports and after school activities and enjoying family time. For example, you can see the background that I've got today. We're in Jackson, Wyoming. We spent all day in Yellowstone yesterday, looking for animals and all that stuff. It was really awesome.
That is a really beautiful place that I was there once. Awesome spot.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to know is, let's say we're interested in learning more about what you do and how we can invest in some of your projects. How do we contact you?
So, you can contact, we're online at centennialadvisors.com. We do spell advisors with an E, which, trips people up a little bit sometimes. My email is justin.white@centennialadvisors.com. You can also reach out to me direct, 714-231-2537. I grew up in Southern California, but we do business across the country. And yeah, I would say that the first thing, if somebody's interested or has questions, is give us a call. We're happy to help you figure out if it's the right thing to do. We're also, if it sounds like the right thing to do, we're happy to get on a call with Mark and who he's got on his team. We're happy to get involved with whatever real estate attorneys or tax attorneys people have on their team. What I found in this opportunity zone space is that people get intrigued by it and then they want to run it by all of their team. And so far in all these transactions we've done, you figure each client has 2 to 4 people that they want to get the sign off on. It takes a little bit of time. It takes a lot of questions. What I would say is a lot of times that people's, tax advisor and attorneys are always looking out for them. So they ask us a lot of tough questions. But in the end, everybody's been like, yeah, I think we can do it. So it starts with just getting you educated, and we're happy to do that.
Fantastic. All right. I'm so glad we survived this conversation before my battery ran out. Justin, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys all enjoyed the conversation we had. Subscribe for more. And if you or anyone you know may be interested in our services or joining our team and also receiving consultation if you are a CPA, especially after this conversation, I have a feeling some of you casual listeners dropped off, but the CPAs are still listening. We are doing consulting for other tax advisors as well. email info@markperlbergcpa.com, and have a great day.